The views and opinions expressed in this content are that of a continuously evolving nature and are subject to change as humanity evolves into higher states of awareness.
Hello everyone, just Lee again here from Real Spirit Dynamics, and in this video I want to talk about how we progress from 3D awareness to 5D awareness when it comes to intimate relationships. Now, if anyone's familiar with the Ra teachings and the Law of One, they talk about the different levels of awareness and they refer them to densities, okay? So there's first density, second density, third density, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh. And these are the stages of evolution that we go through from physical matter up until pure forms of love. Okay, so each density we go up, the more our love increases, which the spiritual communities refer to as love and light and enlightenment. Now, when it comes to intimate relationships, this is my take on it. Okay, there's nothing being scientifically proven yet. It's quite esoteric, this knowledge. And it's quite new in the spiritual communities because most of the world at the moment are progressing from 3D awareness to 4D. That's the current paradigm at the moment. But some of us are actually progressing from 4D to 5D. And this is what I want to go into in this video. I want to talk about the different stages involved in this process. So when we're born, we start off in third density. And the first stage of this is the ego formation. So we come into this reality and we rely on our parents to look after us and support us and comfort us when we need comfort. Okay, but as we get older into our teens, we kind of leave this dynamic and we go and explore the external world, the 3D density, and we kind of get into relationships and we kind of seek from those relationships what we seeked from our parents. Okay, so what this leads to is, it leads to us finding someone and expecting a similar outcome as what we'd expected from our parents. And what this leads to is disappointment because we realize that we cannot find that in anyone else, okay? So we're kind of getting these relationships. We might have our first girlfriend or boyfriend and we'll end up very hurt when that relationship ends. And because of that hurt, we then fear this happening again, which is what causes the ego. Okay, so the ego is caused by the fear of our first relationship ending, and we're kind of scared to feel that hurt again. Okay, this is the very first stage of ego formation. So the next stage of this is karma caused by fear, and the way this happens is we then go into our next relationship with the fear of that ending the same way as the first one. So we kind of have walls up and we're not our true self. Okay, so because we're not our true self, we then put on a kind of act because of the ego. And with this act, it doesn't resonate with the other person because anything fake in this reality has consequences. And those consequences are karma. So it's karmic debt within relationships. And the more fake we are, the more karma it causes because we're not being our true authentic self. And because we're not being our true self and the other person in the relationship might not be their true self either, it then causes an imbalance which often ends up in that relationship ending as well. And this is what brings us into the next stage, which is victimhood and confusion. So because the first few relationships we get into are not working, we then feel like a kind of victim. And we kind of get confused as to why these relationships are not working. And when we're in this stage, we get quite frustrated with ourselves because we're trying to be who we think the other person wants us to be. And this is part of the ego as well. And when we do this, it kind of creates more disruption and more karma because we're still not being our true selves. Okay, we're still trying too hard to be someone we're not, so that relationship works. And because it keeps not working because of this, we get quite confused and feel like a victim. And after this stage, we then reach the stage that I like to call self-analysis. Because what we start to do here is we start to analyze ourselves to find out why we're getting in these relationships and why they're not working out and what the other person is doing wrong and what we're doing wrong in relation to that. So we start to analyze ourselves. We start to think, what is it I'm doing wrong? Okay, why are these relationships not working? Is there something I need to change about myself to make these relationships work? And with this comes a change of approach. Now in this stage, we kind of tweak little things about ourselves to try and make these external relationships work. So for instance, we might think to ourselves, well, I'll try and be interested in what they're interested in, and I'll change myself to fit in with them, etc., etc. Now, all these changes of approach, we try for a number of years sometimes, and what this eventually leads to is the next stage, which is the realization of non-control. Okay, the reason I like to call it this is because this is where we realize that we cannot control the outcome of our relationships based on seeking them externally. Okay, so whatever we do to try and change ourselves, or whatever we do to try and make the relationships work, we realize that we can never control the other person, or we can never control the relationship, whether it works or not. And this leads to surrender. Okay, so we kind of surrender to the fact eventually that whatever we do, we cannot make the relationship work. And this also leads to ego loss. Okay, this is a very important stage of the 3D paradigm. We eventually get to ego loss because we kind of surrender to the fact that our ego is not helping with these relationships. In fact, the ego itself is what's causing these relationships to not last. And when this happens, we have a realization of this, and this leads to the next stage, which is love for self and love for others. Okay, so once we've surrendered to the fact that our ego is actually holding us back from keeping the stability in these relationships, we can then progress to surrender. And this is a big process. This is a very important part of your spiritual evolution, because what this means is that we progress from 3D awareness to 4D awareness. So 3D awareness is self-realization, becoming self-aware, and ego and survival. So after this stage, we then go to the 4D awareness, which is love and acceptance, which is also known as unconditional love, and the surrendering of the ego is a big part of this. And as we progress from this stage, from the 3D to the 4D awareness, we start to get new abilities, you see, because this universe acts like a game. The more you level up, the more abilities you get. And once we reach this stage, we then realize that the internal mirrors the external. So we realize that because of our love and acceptance and loving others unconditionally, that actually comes back to us in all kinds of ways. Okay, so this is a new ability. Once we realize this, we'll fluctuate from 4D to 3D a few times, okay? This is not a straightforward process. You'll keep going back to your old ego ways sometimes, and then you'll go back to the 4D, unconditional love, then you'll go back to ego, fears, then you'll go back to unconditional love, and this fluctuates for a period of time, okay? But once you reach the 4D and you realize the internal mirrors the external, that's when you start to realize the power of unconditional love. And as this realization comes into your awareness, the universe will then test you. And the universe is very clever how it does this. It'll actually bring in circumstances and events to you to see if it lowers your vibration, to see if you go back to that 3D paradigm. Now, the way it does this is, for instance, it'll somebody who you fell out with, who was on a negative energy, will come back in and say something to spark your ego again, okay? And you've got a choice here. You can either choose to respond to that with love, or you can respond in a negative way with your ego. So the universe will do this. It'll bring in little things. For instance, your ex might message you with something where they have an agenda with something or something like that. And it's up to you whether you want to go back into that frequency level or stay on the new level that you're on. So there's many, many ways in which the universe will test you with this. And if you remain on that 4D unconditional love frequency, then you'll progress to the next stage, which is trusting the universal process. Okay, so you'll start to trust the universal process and see how your reactions and the way you act mirrors the external. And when you become comfortable doing this, it then sticks, and then you no longer go back to the 3D paradigm, and you stay on the fourth dimensional paradigm. And the universe will keep backing this up and testing you until you reach this stage. And once you've fully mastered this stage, you then progress into 5D awareness. So not many people on the planet today have reached 5D awareness yet, especially within relationship dynamics. But when you reach this stage, it's kind of like being born again, and you start on a blank canvas. So remember when I said in the 3D reality, you're born with self-awareness. Well, in the 5D, you're kind of born again with a lot more powers and a lot more of ability that you've earned from all your experiences in the 3D and the 4D. So you start with a kind of blank canvas with new abilities and all that knowledge that you learned. And with this, the universe then presents you with your vibrational match. So because you're now resonating on this frequency where you've fully surrendered, you've got through the 3D and the 4D dynamics, the universe then brings to you someone on your vibrational frequency who's also in the 5D. When this happens, it's kind of like being a little child again, because you're pure again. But when you get in this relationship, you merge, and there's nothing to unmerge that, okay? So there's nothing that's going to ruin that relationship, because all the old ego and all the fears that you had in previous relationships, you've now transcended, okay? So because you've got no ego, you've got full acceptance and unconditional love, this relationship can merge and it can last forever, okay? And when this happens, a funny thing happens here. It's kind of like everything that you lost in the previous paradigm that you tried to cling on to is then brought back to you in the new paradigm, and you don't need to try and cling on to it anymore because it's just there and there's nothing stopping it. And you'll know this because synchronicity starts to make sense, okay? So synchronistic events will make sense to the merging of your two souls. So for instance, during this lockdown period, because of the virus, we're all forced to stay indoors and face ourselves more, okay? And this might also lead to your vibrational match doing the same, which gives them time to self-reflect and gives you time to self-reflect, which can then merge you both together in ways that wouldn't have been possible without that event, okay? And you'll realize why these events happen. And these events happen for everyone all over the world. It just, a lot of people are not aware of why they're happening until you reach the 5D awareness. And then every single synchronistic event that happens, you'll realize it's the universe backing up what you already know. And with time, this then leads to all the world events that happen making sense, okay? Everything in the world makes sense. Even if the weather is miserable one day, you'll understand why that is, because that'll cause something else to happen which was meant to happen for your spiritual evolution, etc., etc. Okay? And after this stage, you then get into the reality control. Now in the reality control stage, you'll realize that all the reality you knew in the previous paradigms does not even affect this paradigm, okay? It's a whole different reality. For instance, when my vibrational match was brought to me, I actually asked her for her age, and she couldn't even remember her age, you see, because when you reach this 5 density awareness, age and time doesn't even compute the same way as it did in the previous ones, because we realize it's not necessary, because time is kind of an illusion, okay? You'll be doing something and literally 3 hours will just disappear, because time kind of comes out of your consciousness, and it's more about being in the now and focusing on things in the present moment. And time, birthdays, etc., all the things people celebrate or do in the 3rd density awareness doesn't really apply to the 5 density awareness. And this can sometimes cause loneliness, because you kind of don't resonate with a lot of people that you used to resonate with, and people kind of think you're strange, okay? But this is a big part of the 5 density awareness, which is reality control. And you start to realize that you can literally think something and it'll become evident in your external. Okay, you can literally control reality just with your thoughts. This is one of the level ups you get in the 5 density awareness. And it takes a little bit of time to master this, by the way. Okay, and you have to test this. You can go out and you can test it. You can think about something. You can do affirmations and they'll literally appear in front of you. And this is kind of a very tough stage to deal with for some people, because some people might feel like they're going a bit insane. Okay, they might feel like they might be manifesting things they don't want to manifest. Okay, so it takes a little bit of getting used to this, because you can literally control your own reality just with your thoughts and actions. So the next stage is working with your vibrational match together in service to others. Okay, so because you've now realized unconditional love, you realize that what you do internally mirrors the external, you then want to help others. And what happens here is you can communicate with your match and come up with realizations and new levels of awareness that will help others that you wouldn't be able to do on your own, or you wouldn't have been able to do in the previous paradigms. And this brings love and light. Okay, so you use love and light in order to kind of help the universe evolve, help other people evolve. Not by telling them what to do, but by understanding where they're coming from. Okay, you'll be able to jump back into their timeline. You'll be able to jump back into 3D consciousness because you've already experienced it temporarily to help them, and you'll realize how to help them in new ways. Okay, you'll be able to work this like white magic. If anyone's familiar with the book A Treatise on White Magic, this goes into this quite a lot. It's very esoteric, very complex knowledge, but this is what white magic is. You learn how to help others without forcing anything upon them, okay, or without even them realizing that you're helping them. And this is what you can do with your vibrational match, which is why the masculine and the feminine come together, because when they come together, this creates a new paradigm where the knowledge is far greater because of the two energies combining than what it would be just the masculine or just the feminine. And this backs up the final stage that I want to mention here, which is duality transcendence. Okay, so all is one. Everything's merged into one. You realize that you are everything in the universe. Okay, consciousness is all one. You realize this with the combined powers of both the masculine and the feminine, and then you can use them abilities to maximize your love for others and service to the universe. And when you do this comes more rewards, and this is the highest stage of spiritual evolution on the planet at the moment, and not many people have reached this stage yet, but when you do, this is when you can use your true powers to help the universe. This is also known as Christ consciousness in some of the spiritual communities, transcendence of duality. This is what people experience during psychedelic trips, when they experience all as one. But what happens when they have these trips is they're not actually in this stage in reality yet, but you can see this stage because psychedelics are here to show us the future. So we are aware of the universal evolutionary spiritual progress, and that's very important. And after this stage, we're kind of in uncharted territory here, guys. I don't know what's after this stage yet. So if anybody has gone over this stage or realised what's next, please leave a comment. So looking at the notes that I made in relation to this video, there's a few more points I want to make regarding this process. The first thing I wrote down here was don't try and shortcut this process via spiritual bypassing, okay? Because there's a lot of spiritual teachers out there who are trying to bypass the spiritual process, and they're telling people they can do this. But in reality, this is not possible, you see, because you can only reach this level of awareness with the experience of all these stages, okay? It's impossible to reach 5D awareness without the experience necessary. And if you think that you've reached 5D without this experience, you might very well think you're in 5D awareness, but you'll not have all the abilities that the universe gives you in 5D awareness, okay? So remember that. Try and look to your true self, okay? Be true to yourself. Don't try and spiritually bypass these processes. And another thing that I wrote down here is this is not for everyone, okay? These that have not experienced stage 1 will not understand 5D. So not everyone on the planet is here to evolve to 5D in this lifetime. Some people come and, for instance, they might be religious, they might have an arranged marriage, and they might stay with the same person all their life, and they might make that work, you see. Some people might meet someone when they're young and stay with that person forever, and that's fine, okay? Not everyone's here to experience 5D. But anybody who is doing that will not experience the 5D reality, okay? They'll remain in the 3D reality, which is fine because we need people in the 3D reality to make the world work, okay? There's many different stages of evolution and everything works as one, so that's totally fine. And another thing I wrote down here was these are just the main steps to 5D, okay? Many more experiences are involved in going from 3D to 5D awareness, okay? There's many different traumatic experiences involved in this process. This is just for the purposes of a relationship dynamic here, and these are just the very basic steps, okay? There's many things such as traumatic experiences, grief, loss, things happen in your life that progress you onto the 5D awareness. So just bear that in mind, guys. And but yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed that. And please, if you have experienced any of this, or you are in the uncharted territory or know what comes next, please leave a comment about that and subscribe to my channel. And please like this video. And thanks for your time, guys. And I'll see you on the next video.